I really have this deep belief that images can change the world. It's not that I started making work with that belief, but it's what I've come to know. It's a beautiful way to tell a story. I consider myself an American realist. For me, it means just recognizing my Americanness first and just wanting the work to join a greater ongoing conversation. Edward Hopper or Andy Wyeth, they're telling these American stories, and I'm also telling American stories.
Miss Amy Sherald, portrait artist.
Last week, Amy Sherald went from being a virtual unknown to one of the most talked about artists in the world. On Monday, her painting of Michelle Obama was unveiled alongside Kehinde Wiley's portrait of President Barack Obama. Both Sherald and Wiley were interviewed and chosen for the job by the Obamas themselves.
I wanted to paint a quiet and powerful portrait of her that offered the viewer a different kind of moment and make it truly about her and not about the First Lady title. And making everyone feel the way that she makes people feel in person, which is like she's very relatable. When they look at Michelle, they can see themselves. By being herself, she gives us permission to be our full selves. It just so happens that painting Black people is kind of political. But these figures hanging on museum walls, it's more than just that. You know, it's more than just the corrective narrative. It's gotta be about humanity first, and then everything else has to follow. The decision to paint the skin in gray, when I first started making this work, I think I had anxiety about the work being marginalized and the conversation solely being about identity. This was something that I wasn't trying to escape necessarily, but I wanted the work to be bigger than that. I started to think of it as a way to allow the viewer to have an experience that was not about race first. These paintings for me are really about our interior lives.
Well, this is Amy. This is not a large one, but that's Amy, and I'm trying to think of her age at the time. But
6 or
Yeah,
7, maybe
so-
second grade. And then this is all my siblings.
yeah, Amy was the bossy one.
That's funny.
She
Yeah.
wanted to be an artist, and of course, I would always say, I don't want a starving artist. You can be a doctor, a lawyer, anything better than an artist. Do your art on the side. But she was determined to be an artist.
Yeah, and this is my mom when she was 19.
High school.
Having these here for me was the opportunity to understand my history and where I come from. And after using the grayscale painting, I really started to think about these images that I had growing up. I was always drawn to the photograph of my grandmother, Jewel. I just think photographs from this time, the eyes really tell a story. Like you can really feel who they were in that moment. And I think that's what really draws me to black and white photography, is because it's so special and saturated with so much emotional energy. Looking at her picture, I saw a woman who was dignified, who represented herself in a way that influenced how I wanted to be represented in the world as well. I don't think I realized that I was missing seeing imagery of myself in art history. It wasn't until I came across a painting that actually had a person of color in it, a Black person, that I realized that I had never seen that before. As a sixth grader, my first time going to a museum, when I saw this painting by Bo Bartlett, I was shocked that I was looking at a figure of a Black man. He was standing in front of a house. He had on a belt that had like some handyman stuff. I just remember standing there for a few minutes, and like I realized when I saw that work that I wanted to make paintings like that. I was able to see my future in that moment. So this is my childhood bedroom, and it's pretty much exactly as I left it when I moved to Atlanta to go to Clark Atlanta University. I didn't have the kind of mom that like let us put posters up in our room or anything like that. Like everything had to be just like this when I left to go to school. I waited tables from the time I was 25 till I was about 37. I kept painting. I was trying to figure out where I fit in and what my voice would be. And in my mind, I was like, well, I don't see just paintings of Black people just being Black. Like we're just here, we're living our lives, hanging out, just being ourselves. Post-grad school, I'd run into this model who was like a 6'1" young Black woman. And, I asked her if she would come and allow me to take a picture of her. She had on a pink shirt that had white polka dots on it and a big bow tie. She's standing there with her arms dropped down to her side, her gaze meeting the viewer, and she looks a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit awkward. She, in that moment, stood there as like everything that I wanted to represent. She was fully herself in this out-of-the-box kind of way. That painting was a seminal piece for me because it really solidified in my mind like what exactly I was doing. I wanted to make images that told stories like this. I started finding the models that I wanted to find, creating these different narratives and scenarios that I wanted to see exist in the world. Hi, guys. Hi, Kayla.
How are you? Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Hi.
Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for doing this. Come here, medium.
Yes.
All right, let's head down. I just gotta get a visual of what this is gonna look like. My process is that I find the painting like, we're gonna do a lot of different poses.
Cool.
So let's give it a shot and see how it goes.
Like this. And sit down.
Yep. And then move this foot up just a couple of inches. Up. There we go. Okay, Raj, look at him in his eyes. Photography is the beginning of the painting. It's how I begin to search for what I want in the work. I let the models feel their way through what's happening, and then each pose, I try to adjust to find exactly what I'm looking for, what the painting is going to be like, what is it going to feel like, are the colors right, are the positions right. Shooting. I rely on the organic in my work. Like I try not to overplan. I just go in with my antennas up, looking for the right moments and waiting for that synergy to build between the models. And I leave the photo session with exactly the image that I'm going to work with. So it's almost like it's my sketchbook. That's amazing. That's good. So this is perfect because the way your noses are, everything is great. I have been looking at a lot of photographs of iconic American moments and reconsidering them and reimagining them. And so I came across the image from the V-Day kiss, and then I thought it would be wonderful if I could recreate this image, but with two men. When I think about who's going to be represented in my work, I think it speaks to the moment.
This morning, the family of a Kentucky woman shot and killed by police is demanding answers, filing a wrongful death lawsuit against 3 officers. Breonna Taylor's family claiming officers blindly fired more than 20 shots into her apartment 2 months ago. On March 13th, 3 officers entered.
Breonna Taylor was an all-American girl from an all-American family. Her mom told me that, she was a girly girl and she liked to get dressed up. And it was really heartbreaking for me to realize that it was also a love story, that her boyfriend at the time was going to propose to her within weeks of that happening. So then I wanted to include the engagement ring. And all of these things clued me into how I felt like she would possibly want to be represented on the cover of a magazine. I painted it for her family so that when they look at this image, they see the whole story. I think that we deserved a whole picture of her life. After the cover came out, the work was co-acquired by her hometown museum, which is the Speed, but then also the Smithsonian African American Museum of History and Culture. I thought that it was important for it to be in line of sight of the government in Washington, D.C. I just started having the space to make paintings this large. It's a dream come true. It's the dream that I had when I was in high school, when I realized that artists had big studios and made huge paintings. Sometimes it feels surreal to walk in here and just see the work that I've made and see the work that I'm making. For most of my life, it was something that I was striving for. When I look back at my life, it seems fairly orchestrated, these kind of moments that push you forward. I just feel lucky that I listened to my heart and listened to whatever my intuition said. I was like, I'm gonna do that. I was told by somebody in my life, don't listen to criticism and don't listen to praise. Just do what you do.